Reach and virality does not necessarily translate into a successful business. Resonance does. There's a lot of ways to do this, and it's not, let me repeat that, it is not with crazy post-production. It's not by hormosifying your clips.
I think this is what's so important for you as a creator, to talk to whoever is helping you produce your content, or even yourself if you are the one doing it, and test things out.
Well, of course, people can copy stories. Not many people can copy stories about yourself.
Yeah, your story,
but if you become a master storyteller, you're going to get people hooked.
Look, for a local brick and mortar business owner, content is not to attract new leads. It's almost like to close the existing leads. Welcome, guys, to Content is Profit, your favorite podcast in the marketing and content world. Let's go. 1.5, top 1.5% in the world. Fonzie's laughing. Why are you laughing, dude?
Because you're just practicing that and you messed it up.
I messed it up so bad, but it's okay. Thanks to you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for your feedback. It's always appreciated. So I just want to say thank you, man. I'm very grateful.
It's good to live in a state of gratitude. So thank you for tuning in. And today I have a special topic for you. It's going to be Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious. Thank you, Fonzie, for setting this up. Okay.
You got it.
Talk to me.
All right. Last time we talked about the Hack 2 effect, virality.
The what effect?
Hack 2, something like that.
Hack 2, dude.
Oh, my bad. My bad. You know, I'm not too much on the mainstream.
Oh, dude,
but that being said, we talked a little bit about virality. Yes. Today, I want to push the topic a little further. We're not going to be talking about that.
No.
We're talking about resonance versus volume reach, right? Like pushing or creativity. And I want to read something here before we start. There's a lot of people that talk about increasing reach and going viral. Most of it is tactics. Tactics are easy to consume. They sell. But not many talk about principles and about foundations, about how to increase resonance, how to attract the right fit for your community and your business and your podcast, of course. Reach and virality does not necessarily translate into a successful business. Resonance does. And you might be asking yourself, what is resonance? So I got a little Google definition here for you.
Can I read it?
Sure. Participate.
There we go. Thank you, Fonzie. Thank you for, here we go. Resonance, the ability to evoke or suggest images, memories, and emotions.
That is true. So, you know, I want to state here something real. Yeah.
Share a story to illustrate the...
That's what I was going to lead to, right? When we first started, you know, the content world, our reference was Gary Vaynerchuk. And he talks a lot about volume. And caveat I'm going to share, I do think volume has its place 100%. But a lot of people that listen to the message of volume for the first time, you know, are guilty of what happened to us, which we were like, all right, well, let's just put a whole bunch of, you know, throw a bunch of spaghetti towards the wall. And we started trying to put a lot of volume that was not sustainable. Yeah. And eventually we burn ourselves out and we find ourselves in a position of, you know, burnout creatively. Mm-hmm. Like we had zero creativity. We didn't want to publish. We didn't want to continue until we kind of find our way back with the 45 live challenge, right? And we were like, you know what? Our volume and our cadence is this. Yeah. Like we pretty much figure out our bandwidth, what we could create. And we did our own personal challenge where we went live for 45 days in a row. Yeah. And the rest is history. Now, we need to ask ourselves, how can I evoke, you know, these images, memories, and emotions? And resonance, right, happens through these stories, through this messaging, right? And a lot of content, that is something that gets lost when people try to put a lot of volume, right? Without the right capacity. We've talked about it. Yeah. And this is when I say volume has its place. And volume might look a little bit different to us, a little subjective for certain people, depending again on their capacity. But volume has its place. And I believe as long as we keep testing that resonance and those stories, because it might be more of a waste of efforts and a waste of resources to put random content out there, right? Than diminishing the volume in a way, but making sure that each piece has a certain level of resonance, right? Like a story, something that again evokes something on people. And this is why I think podcast clips, in a sense, are very challenging for a lot of people to make, because they just think, oh, there's a small inside part here on the podcast. I'm going to clip that and I'm going to put it out into the world. And those elements are the tactics that sell, on top, but they lack resonance, which is what is going to make people remember you. Like I remember a lot of frameworks and, a whole bunch of things, but I don't necessarily remember who shared them. But when I think about direct response marketing, I very well know who introduced me to that, because I got introduced through stories, lots of them, right? And I'm like, my mind goes immediately to Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels.
Yeah, I also think, and I think like this gets confirmed every time that we do research on it. And yesterday we were doing a challenge with one of our partners, and we had a few hundred people in the room asking different questions, and we're talking about microclipping too, and we're talking about how do we identify the right clip? And I think sometimes people come in with, let's say they want to create a podcast clip, but the expectation is, I'm expecting this clip to do as well as a resonant clip, or like a highly produced clip with a story, a crafted hook. And the truth is that they're two different things that people consume, right? And then on top of that, right, it might be the same platform, but it's a different kind of content, right, that we might create in. So, and this thought just popped up as you are explaining this, but it confirmed, because we cannot expect a clip that is extracted from something that is long form. Maybe the long form has the resonance, right, to be as intentional or to be as crafted as something that intentionally got crafted to fit those 59 seconds with that resonance, for example, right? Yeah. So I think like the way that we see those clips, and like, how do we assign the value to those, specific clips? And yes, to an extent, you can engineer based off of that, and we can talk specifically on the production. But also, I saw Alex Hormozy's one of his keynotes, and he's talking for like local business owners, and he says something that really resonated, where it's like, look, for a local brick and mortar business owner, content is not to attract new leads. It's almost like to close the existing leads, right? And we talked about this. I remember like 7 years ago, where it's like, okay, we put content out there consistently to whatever capacity the business has. Yeah. And it's because people are already interested in you, and they're going to go and search and do that. So I think, hold on, can I finish my thought? I know you're like,
maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
I think for podcasts is similar, right? Or for podcast clips is very similar, in the sense as in people already, or they're getting introduced to your brand, or they already know, and there's a reminder to go back to to listen to your episodes.
But that's resonance. Like that, to my point, people will go back to listen to something of you, consume something of yours, or close the existing leads, because there's resonance, right? Like that's something that attracts them more to you.
But now we're talking about resonance at the level of your content ecosystem in general, not that one specific clip, right?
Okay, so I believe, first of all, clipping can be done in many different ways, right? Mm-hmm. But I do think there's a level of intent that people can put to make a clip like have more resonance. Obviously, there's levels to it, right? But you can always add context to something, or add a story to a simple fact that you're taking out of it. Or you can add, you can cut and restructure certain clips, which is something that AI cannot do, just so you know, right? But somebody, that is well-versed in the stories, in marketing, like they can go into a piece of content and chop a 3-minute segment, rearrange it, turn it into a 90-second clip, and perform better than if you just would have cut it and publish it, right? Because you're understanding now, okay, how do I frame this? Maybe there's a part of the conversation in here that fits into that, right? And you can create, it's more work. Yes, 100%, right? It's definitely more work. But I also agree on the sense that a clip performs a different task, right? Than a more intentional piece of content that you are creating.
I mean, here, and again, Very subjective, also based on your topic. I mean, there's so many other elements, right, that play into this, you know, based on your topic, on what you're actually, what's the story that you're telling, what's the point? Like a entertaining joke within a community might be a little bit more engaging than education. We don't know, right? And I think this is what's so important for you as a creator, to talk to whoever is helping you produce your content, or even yourself if you are the one doing it, and test things out, right? So
that's the thing. At the end of the day, you gotta test it out.
You gotta test. You know, we might have a theory, right? But for example, with the clips on the football show, right? There's a couple like podcast clips that are there, and you know, we have like tier A, tier B, tier C. I consider those maybe tier B, very basic tier Bs, where it's like a couple scene change. You know, you have the reference, the visual reference. They're not as structured, right? And then the latest clip that I did was based on some news that they were extending. You know, the 30-minute halftime versus 15 minutes. And it was almost like just me complaining about that topic and I'm pointing my point of view. And it was a linear thing, right? Maybe the intention was more on like, how do I craft the message initially? And that performed way better than obviously the podcast clips, because it was not a full podcast, right?
Yeah.
So who knows?
There's also a lot of factors like timeline of the news, right? Like,
absolutely,
is something topical or is an evergreen topic, right? Of course, something that is topical, fresh in people's minds will probably attract more of people's attention. But then, even so, there's a lot of people that are going to be talking about that stuff. So the question is, when you're creating something topical, how can I make it resonate with more people? Can I include some of my stories, right? Like that can be done, and that can be done very purposely on long form during the podcast, for example. And then when you're clipping, right, it becomes easier for your team to put those moments together. At the end of the day, it is a skill.
Yeah,
right? Like
100%.
Building resonance into your content is a skill that you need to develop through practice. At the end of the day, you got to publish consistently, and you need to think about what you've been publishing and reflect on it and say, okay, how can I make this better? How can I deliver this message better? And I think that was the power of 45 Live at first, which was it was helping us tell those stories multiple times, right? And the framework that we were using was very simple: hook, story, offer, right? And we were pretty much using that. It's like, okay, what is the hook for today? Telling a story, mostly for you, was that day's story. And then how can we tie it to our business?
Which the ones that are, you know, for the ones that are not familiar with 45 Live, is just an internal challenge that we did to go live on Facebook at the time for 45 days straight, right? And the goal was to measure our capacity and put our message out there. So I highly encourage, if you want to try it out, go ahead, do it. Let us know in social media at @TheBeastRisco. How is it going? We have somebody from the community that's doing 100 days, which is super exciting. But anyways, that's what unlocked publishing and got us the practice with the message. So Fonzie, for the last 5 minutes, I see here that you have some tips to crafting a high impact original work that resonates. All caps.
Is right. A little summary of what we've been talking about here, a little bullet points. But first of all is emphasize quality and originality to stand out. And this doesn't mean that you need to come out here and entertain everybody, right? But there's a lot of ways to do this. And it's not, let me repeat that. It is not with crazy post-production. It's not by hormosifying your clips. Maybe that worked for a little while, but people are desensitizing themselves from that. They see that and they're like, oh, they're just trying to catch my attention. You need quality of the message, right? We always said this: quality of the message over quality of the production. So there's a lot of ways that you can create this quality and this originality, right?
Yeah.
How do you avoid creating commodity content that blends into the noise? These pieces are, right, how do you differentiate yourself? You have the way you deliver your message, right? I've seen a great example. I wish I remember her name, but she's like a psychologist, and she always has props at the very beginning of her clips so she can help people visualize what she's trying to say. And then she goes on with the story and reflection of the content that she's sharing. Is incredible. It's a great way to deliver the message. Your personality. I think that has been one of our personal identifiers, especially with the guests when we have them on the show. They're like, oh man, it's so cool. The dynamic between you two, the energy is absolutely amazing. It is definitely something to help us differentiate ourselves. Your UVP, right? Unique value proposition. Yeah. Again, of course, that is a little bit diving in deeper into the marketing sense of things. And what our good friend, Mr. Todd Brown, shared with us once, in episode 40 of Content is Profit, is your unique mechanism as well, right? Like you can differentiate yourself by having a unique mechanism on how to share things. And of course, you gotta share that with people. And that mechanism might resonate with some more than some other ways that they've been trying and they haven't been successful with. And of course, stories. Like nobody, well, of course, people can copy stories. Not many people can copy stories about yourself. Your story, but if you become a master storyteller, you're going to get people hooked. You're going to get people feeling emotions. And we shared this actually with Marley Jacks a long time ago. I think it was the first time we said it, which, emotions create memories, right? And I shared it earlier. When I talk about direct response marketing, I think about all the stories I've heard about the potato guns and Russell Brunson. And it's because, again, created emotions and I can look back into it. And then the last point here is focus on ideas that resonate and engage deeply. For this, you will have to test. And then, of course, you can invest more into that content that gives you good signal rather than just producing high volumes of content. High volumes of content is good, let me tell you, of course, you have the quality of the message of, well, if you can sustain that point right there, you need sustainability. You need to understand your capacity, the bandwidth of your team, and what you can put out there. Don't just throw spaghetti at the wall. And of course, commit to continuous improvement and mastering your craft. We've said it, it's an ability, right? Creating resonance with your content is a skill that needs a lot of work, right? You need reps. If you like anything else in the world, if you want to get good at it, you need practice and you need to put yourself out there. So go out there, create some good content, good quality content that resonates with your audience. Share some of your stories, right? How can you make them emotional and tie them to your business? And let's see how that builds up.
Absolutely. To wrap up, I saw another clip last night that really resonated. And I think like this is one of the things that I really want to test. Like I'm big fan. Fonzie is more big fan of that intentionality of like crafting it. I'm personally more fan of simple message and putting it out there a little bit faster, which is a great balance, right? Because we can play and we can experiment with a lot of things. And yesterday, this guy was talking about 120 clips. 120 clips a month is what people need. That's, for reference, 4 clips a day, right? And I immediately started doing the math. It's like, okay, if we want to do the show, blah, 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 we got to do around 14 clips per episode. Think about like, if you ever hear a message like this could be like very misguided for a lot of people that are looking at this type of content. Also very intimidating, right?
Yeah.
4 clips a day. So anyways, I would encourage you, because I know there's a lot of clips and messages going around with that kind of message. Take a personal inventory and your team's inventory of what is their capacity, and then decide of what's the volume that you guys want to test out for the next month. Be very, very specific. We have to record X amount of episodes. From each episode, we need X amount of clips, and start testing it out, because it's going to be the data is going to be very individualized to you, to your message, to the people, and the platforms are going to help, you put that content in front of your ideal audience. And if it's not attracting, maybe we have to work on that message and dial it down and invest more time into that. Anyways, I just thought it was interesting because my head immediately went to like, how many of those do we have to do every single episode? And honestly, to be honest, I would love to test it out and see what happens.
All right, you go and produce them. You go and edit all the 120 clips.
Why are you complaining? You don't touch Content is Profit content.
Just saying.
But anyways.
I know Mava ain't going to be happy about that.
It's not going to be her. It's not going to be her. Anyways, guys. No, not that one. Guys, thank you so much to tune into Content is Profit podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at BizBursCo.
That is Ryan. If today's episode helped you move one step closer towards great content, please don't forget to share this episode. And of course, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.